Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special episode of NCAA March Madness Breakdown with Shawn and Danny P. Welcome to the official Trudge Report YouTube channel. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share this channel with all your friends and family. And also, please like and comment on our main podcast, which is on all your podcast listening platforms. And you can check us out on all social media outlets at Trudge Report Pod. Again, that is at Trudge Report Pod. Welcome, Danny P. Happy Sunday. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Happy Sunday. I'm doing good. Doing good. I'm getting a little sad because this is the last Sunday of college basketball for the whole entire year. So
It
that's
is.
that's that's a little it's like fun watching the games, but it's
Yeah.
coming to an end soon and it's like bittersweet, man.
Yep. I agree. I agree. It is a little bittersweet. But we're going to recap. We're going to go back to Thursday, March 27th, and recap the Sweet 16 games from Thursday and Friday, and then the Elite Eight games from today and yesterday as well. We won't spend a ton of time on the Sweet 16 games, but we will mention them, go through them, and anything that jumps out. And then we'll mostly focus on the Elite Eight games and then a very special look ahead to the chalkiest of all chalk, all number one seeds in the Final Four. The stage is set. You have Auburn versus Florida, and then you have Houston versus Duke next Saturday, April 5th. So, yeah, what are your initial thoughts? Initial thoughts, chalk, what it is, anything, just anything.
Yeah, my initial thoughts, honestly, watching all the games, man, I was surprised about the games that were games, and I was surprised about the games that were blowouts. I really thought like a lot of the games that were blowouts were not going to be, and you know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah,
Houston, Purdue, last second shot, like that's
sure,
wild,
sure.
and then Auburn, Michigan in the Sweet 16, I thought that was going to be a good game. I feel like that was a little surprising.
Yeah,
And, I mean, to me again, Florida, their ability to just be like down whatever and just come back is
yeah,
insane.
that was great. Yeah, that was a great game last night. And we'll get to that. We'll get to a few thoughts on the Elite Eight a little more in detail. But let's just real quick go. So last going back to the Elite Eight from the South region, you had Auburn over Michigan 78-65. Never Auburn never really seemed like they were struggling. They didn't blow them out, but it was they kind of pretty much just coasted. They were in control of that game the whole time.
Yeah, Golden did nothing. I was
Yeah,
surprised. I thought
yeah,
the two 7-footers were going to be an advantage, but it ended up with Danny Wolf. He's really good, man. I
yeah,
give him a lot of props, and he played amazing. But their point guards against Auburn's point guards was a
yeah,
non-contest, and that took
yeah,
over the game.
yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
Pettiford had a really good game. Pettiford
he's
had a really
smooth,
good
man.
game. Baker Mazzaro was a little quiet, but he had some. He's got a funky attitude. There's some things there that I don't always love, but Pettiford had a great game, and Janai Broom was solid. I think he had like 17 rebounds or something like that.
Yeah.
He's just kind of steady as they go, but they never really. Auburn never really looked like that. It was in doubt. 13-point victory. They kind of just coasted to that one.
Yeah, I think even 13 points makes it sound closer than it actually was.
Yeah, yeah. A very exciting game from Friday night in the Sweet 16 was that Michigan State Ole Miss game. Michigan State won by 3, 73-70. That was a fun game. Did you get to watch any of that?
Yeah, no, I actually watched the whole thing because one of
Yeah.
my customers diehard Michigan State, so I was jumping
Yeah.
on his bandwagon for it.
Yeah.
And I was surprised. I did not know. I didn't give them enough credit, man. Ole Miss's defense was sensational.
Yeah. They
I
were.
mean, they were everywhere. Michigan State couldn't score, and Michigan State with their MO of starting slow bit them in the butt. And that Padula kid's good. I thought he was just another white dude with a headband, but he's good.
Yeah, Padula is very good. No, Ole Miss was a shocker. They were punching above their weight big time. They had a great little run to the Sweet 16. Um, Michigan's just super athletic, or Michigan State, excuse me, is
Yeah.
just super athletic. Obviously, extremely well coached by Tom Izzo. I think Ole Miss put up a great fight and hung around. I mean that they just kept making shots. It was really impressive. But at the end of the day, Michigan State was just a little too athletic, a little too quick, a little too big, a little too strong.
Yeah. Yeah, they were. I was really shocked just watching that game. I
Yeah,
really didn't think that was going to be a game. And I mean, Ole Miss really took it to them for the first probably 30 minutes, man.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Moving on, you had Florida over Maryland, 87-71. Florida dominated. Maryland just didn't have anything really for that. Great run for
Rebound
Maryland.
rebounded, man. I mean, that was insane. The
Yeah.
disparity in rebounding was, I
Yeah.
mean, you don't stand a chance against Florida.
Yeah. Derek Queen had like 25 points, solid game from him, but just, he was your only real weapon that night. The whole thing, I don't know if you heard, but like I'm sure you did. The head coach of Maryland
Yeah,
like was
yeah,
possibly leaving, and that all
yeah,
was kind of going on through the entire NCAA tournament. You
yeah.
got to think at some point that had some kind of effect somewhere along the line on the team, on the coaching,
Yeah.
on whatever it is. You know what I mean? I think he's a prospect for Villanova, if I'm not correct.
He signed to Villanova.
He
It's
did already. Okay.
it's
All right.
official. Yeah. Yeah, I thought his post-game press conference was a big tell that they knew and they already
Yeah.
knew this was swirling and this was part of, what I mean, this was like, infecting the team. Because if any normal good coach at the end of the game should say, I'm committed to Maryland, and then if you go somewhere else, you go somewhere else. You don't
Sure.
say that right after you lose in the Sweet 16.
Right. Right. No, I agree. I agree. That was kind of a strange kind of happenstance.
Yeah, it was just a bad look. It was just weird to me. Like you just lost. Like you just say, like, "Hey, I'm just focusing on my team right now. I'm not worried about me."
Right.
He was like, "I don't, I don't know my future." So as soon as he said that, I was like, "Well, he's gone."
Yeah. Yeah. The next one was the game of the night on Thursday, the late game Thursday. Arkansas number 10, Arkansas versus Texas Tech, number 3. Texas Tech beats them by 2 points, 85-83 in overtime. Awesome game. Obviously, any game that goes to overtime is an awesome game. Um, Arkansas had a solid lead. They had a really solid lead, and they just kind of Texas Tech just kind of whittled away and whittled away and whittled away. Texas Tech is extremely tough. They rebound well. They play tough defense. They're really good in the paint. Did you watch any of that game?
Yeah, I actually it was funny because I fell asleep. They were up 16, and I woke up in overtime.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. It was 16 points. It was a 16-point deficit.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, just wild, man.
yeah,
It's just amazing that Texas Tech was able to chip away. Um, Arkansas, there were some questions about should they have fouled. Like I
yeah.
don't. I get it. You got to play that game, the what if game, the coaching game.
Yeah.
Um,
But I mean, that's what he, like if you know about him, like that's what he does. And he's gonna, you're as a coach, you should do the same thing that you do every time. You know
sure.
what I mean? You don't
Sure.
change it up. And
Yeah.
I really think that the big difference in that game was a big a bad thing for Arkansas was they made all those threes in the first half. So in the
Right.
second half, they thought they were a 3-point shooting team all of a sudden
It's
out of
not
nowhere.
not sustainable. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And they kept
Yeah.
shooting threes, and that's what, long rebounds, and then they started chiseling away.
Yeah. Not sustainable at all, which is kind of wild. So yeah, good run for John Calipari. Really good run. I mean, the way they started 0-5 in the SEC, and then just kind of they had all those injuries to Adu Thero, and then Boogie Fland was injured, and they came back slowly. I think Thero played in that game, but he only played a
Yeah.
few minutes.
Yep.
But overall, though, I think with everything, excuse me, everything the way it happened, him leaving Kentucky last year and kind of being forced out, and that kind of doing running its course, I think overall a very good year for Calipari, especially the way they started to get to the Sweet 16. Yeah, you wish you'd done a little better when you have a 16-point lead. You really probably should win that game one way or the other, but good year overall. And then he'll rebuild. I think Arkansas will be good
Yeah.
for a good many years.
Yeah. Did you see the Kentucky fans were killing him and stuff and saying that hey Arkansas, welcome to our world, the guy that can never close.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
were
I do. I
they,
saw it.
yeah, they
They're,
were
the
eating them
fans are the
alive.
fans are brutal, man. They're definitely
Oh,
brutal.
brutal, man.
Yeah,
Brutal. I was like, dude, this guy, I mean, like he said, I agree too. I think it might have been his best coaching job ever because
yeah,
it, brand new
yeah,
team,
yep.
out of nowhere in the SEC. Like, I feel like he did a really good job, and I'm not a huge fan of him.
No, I haven't been either. I'm not a huge fan either, but But I respect it. I respect what he's done. So
Yeah, and he's
we'll
always
see.
players first, so you gotta
Yeah,
respect that, you know what I
we'll
mean? He's
see.
trying to get his dudes paid.
I thought the last final shot that what's his name got in overtime was just a
Yeah,
terrible shot. I think
awful.
give the ball to Janelle Davis. Let
Yeah,
him make the final shot.
yeah, yeah, there was no play, you know what I
Right.
mean? Even at the end of you see the one in regulation, like, there's gotta be something better drawn up, man.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. So, all right. Next one was the Arizona Duke game. I had Arizona beating Duke in my final bracket that was still intact. At least the final four was intact. So that got
Yeah,
busted that night.
yeah, yeah,
Um, a couple quick stats. Arizona they fought hard. I got to give him credit.
mm,
Caleb Love, we've talked some shit about him, you and me. He played
showed up.
unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
He played unbelievable. I'll say this though. Duke shot 60% from the field.
Mhm,
They shot almost 60% from 3-point land. And it
mhm,
wasn't like Arizona was bad. They were 45.5% from the field and then 46 from 3-point land. But Duke was 57, almost 58, 57.9% from three,
yeah,
60% from the field from the floor from field goals. They were 85% from free throw, which Arizona did shoot 91% from free throws,
mm,
but they had a few less. And then Duke just kind of, they had a few more rebounds. They had a lot more defensive rebounds. They just kind of they had 7 blocks over
yeah,
one block. They had 13 points. They just kind of they've been doing what they've been doing, man. Arizona
yeah,
fought hard, but it never seemed like Duke was gonna let it up.
no, because they do the other things, you know, Arizona's gonna score, that's it. They don't play defense really, you know what I mean? They don't
Yeah.
do the hard-nosed things. That's what
Right.
makes Duke so great is that, I mean, their defense is literally their staple. You know,
Oh, it's unbelievable.
they didn't play great defense against Arizona because they went but Caleb Love, he was making crazy shots. What do you have, 36 points or something?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was on fire. He was
Yeah,
he was
sometimes guys
extremely
just play out of your mind. There's nothing they can
he
do.
was extremely exciting to watch. So
Yeah, yeah,
we'll get back to Duke definitely. The next game, BYU Alabama. Alabama sets a Sweet 16 record for points, 3-pointers, and
yeah.
3-point field goal percentage.
It was insane,
Unbelievable.
insane.
They went 25 for 51 from
Yeah,
three-point land,
yeah,
49%, and then they shot a cool 53% from the field. Um, Counteract that with 20% from three-point land was BYU. And BYU had been a high-scoring game.
mhm.
Unbelievable effort by Alabama. Like truly just like like what an unbelievable effort.
Yeah, I really think that I was expecting that to be a really good game, and, I
Yeah.
mean, there's not a team in the country that could have sustained that.
No,
Alabama
I
would have
agree.
beat every team in the country that if they played like that.
I agree.
Every
Marcus Sears had 34 points.
Yeah,
Chris Youngblood had 19 points, and then you had 80. What's his name? Holloway had
all
23
the way.
points. So really,
Yeah,
just a solid performance. You had, uh, I'm going to say their center Omoriai. He had 10 points. So just like a
yeah,
great effort all around. They rebounded well. They just kind of did. They just kind of did everything well.
yeah,
Um, you know, they just kind of did everything well. But really what stands out is that 49% from 3-point land. Not only like it's just hard to get off that many three-pointers.
yeah,
51
53s,
three-pointers. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, that's crazy, man, yeah,
Unbelievable.
yeah, it's wild, yeah, but I don't think I've ever seen anything like that, man. I mean, they were just
No.
hitting everything,
No,
and
yeah, seriously. You're
yeah.
absolutely right.
It
Absolutely right.
I felt bad for BYU because they legit
Yeah.
had they have a good team, you know, and they
Yeah.
had a shot, but no one's got a shot against that.
Right. Right. Yep. Next game was Houston versus Purdue. That was a scrappy game.
Yeah,
Purdue, all credit to the world. We've talked.
yeah,
I know you're not the biggest Purdue fan.
yeah,
They fought hard.
yeah,
They played defense against Houston about as good as you could. Braden Smith had, I think I read a stat like in the second half, he either scored or assisted on every
yeah,
single point they had,
yeah, I
which
saw
is
that.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I saw that.
Houston was again up by a decent amount, but
Yeah,
not a lot, but a good amount. And they let Purdue come back in, and it was a 2-point game. I mean, it was
yeah,
really a close game. All credit to Purdue.
yeah. That game really that one really threw
That
me
one,
for a
yeah,
loop. I I'm glad they won it in regulation because in overtime, I think they might have lost.
Yeah, I agree. I think Purdue has all the momentum there in overtime.
Yeah,
That was
and it was it was a Purdue home game.
mhm,
The crowd was all like 100% all in. That's the thing that scares me with those, you know what I mean? That like
right.
Houston, man, is that they're probably not going to blow somebody
Yeah.
out really, and like
Yep.
offensively, it's like they blowing out Tennessee today. Tennessee had no offense, you know what I mean?
Right.
But against a Duke, but yeah, that game was good. I mean, all I give a lot of credit to Purdue for because
Mhm.
they could have got blown out of the gym easily, and out toughed, and they stood tall. Kaufman Wren played phenomenal.
Great. Yep.
Yeah,
Braden
yeah,
Smith. Yeah. What
yeah,
stood out to me was Houston shot 63.6% from free throw land
yeah,
that game, which is tough.
yeah,
They were 7 for 11, which that's tough.
yeah,
That's not great.
yeah,
That's the kind of stuff you need to do better if you want to win the national championship. Um, uh, the rebound margin was in Houston's favor, but Purdue did out rebound Houston on the defensive end. I thought
yeah,
was really good. They had more assists. They had, you know, just they were like
yeah,
everything we say about Purdue that they're not a big in
yeah,
a dogfight. They were
yeah.
they were dogs that night, and they came
Yeah, they
close,
did it.
but Houston ultimately pulled it off. So
Yeah, yeah. No, they
yeah,
did.
it was
That was
good.
a really good game, man. That's
Yep.
one, more to the, what I mean, games that
Yeah.
shock me. It's just like, but that's, Houston plays a lot of, their offense is one on one. You know what I
Right.
mean? Their offense is one on one stuff. Purdue plays actual offense. So like in a slow paced game like that, like it's really as
Yeah.
long if they execute, they're perfectly suited for it, and it
Per-
fit right into their mold.
Yeah. Purdue's got a really good half court offense,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yep.
So that brings us to our final game on the bracket side of things, which was the Kentucky losing to Tennessee 78-65. Tennessee was in control the entire game. They looked really good. Kentucky, kind of like Calipari with all that stuff, right? Calipari leaves Kentucky, gets kind of forced out of Kentucky. Mark Pope comes over from BYU.
Yep.
Isn't that kind of crazy? Like, think about that for
Yeah.
a second. Calipari leaves Kentucky, goes to Arkansas, loses in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Mark Pope comes from BYU, goes to Kentucky. They lose in the Sweet 16. And what is it? Sean Miller? I can't think of his name now. The guy
From
that stepped into BYU to be their head coach, and they lost in the Sweet 16 as well.
yeah, that's
Um,
wild, man. I
it's
didn't
just
even think of that.
kind of a kind of a crazy little sequence of events there, but all three of them good seasons. Kentucky brand new roster because everybody either
Yeah.
left and transferred elsewhere or followed Calipari to Arkansas. Mark Pope, an alumni of Kentucky, just I think again a solid. Same with Calipari, really good first season.
Mhm.
Um, really good first season. They had some big wins.
Yeah. No, I was a little surprised, but Tennessee just wasn't having it. They got beat twice during the year, and they were just like, we're just not having it. When Tennessee has offense like that, like they're a really good team. You
Yeah.
know, and
Yep.
but yeah, I never
Which
thought about that. The full circle of it. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
that's super
that's kind
circle.
of cool.
Yeah,
Um, which we'll get to Tennessee and their demise from
yeah,
today, but good on them. They made it to the Elite Eight. So then, all right. So then we're rolling right into the Elite Eight. We're going back to the South region, and you had today Auburn versus Michigan State. Auburn wins 70-64. Very similar to their Michigan game.
yeah,
They were kind of in control the entire time. There was
yeah.
never really a doubt. Um, what are your thoughts on the game from today?
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't a 6 point game. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
I just feel like I'm gonna give Auburn a lot of credit on the defensive end because their length, because Michigan State, that it showed up that their ball handler fears, he
Yeah.
can't shoot, and that's a real detriment against a team like that.
Yeah.
Because they literally had two shooters. It was Holloway and there's Jace Richardson. So all they got to do is literally contain two guys
Right.
and then he has to go inside. And if you're gonna go inside, you're gonna go against Cartwright and Broom.
Yeah.
So there was just nothing open for them, and there was no way. They hung tough. You know what I mean? Everything, but the same thing. It was within 10. I feel like Broom played amazing. Then he got injured, and then he came back. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen with that if he's all good because he was.
Yeah, I mean he's got 6 days. I think
Yeah,
he'll be all right.
yeah,
Nothing really in the stats jump out at me. I mean, Both teams were pretty bad from 3-point land. Michigan State was 30%, Auburn was 28%. Uh, Michigan State was pretty bad from the field overall at 34%, but Auburn wasn't that much better at only
Yeah.
42%. So it really, here's a glaring standout. Auburn managed to win that game comfortably while being 11 for 20 from the free throw line,
Yeah.
55% from free throw. That's
Yeah.
bad. And I think they're
Yeah.
an overall much better free throw team than that. But they did not, for whatever reason, they just didn't play good today. But they, which you can look at that both ways. Like they didn't play that good. If they go up against the other elite teams, any of the other number one seeds, against Florida, like they're going to crumble. Or you could look at it as they just played, a Michigan State team that could have probably been a one seed on some level, in some
Mhm.
conversations, and they didn't have their best game, and it was never really in doubt. So take it how you want it, but
Yeah, I
Auburn's
tell you,
moving
I
on.
mean, I really, I think they're showing so that they're showing their of what they did in the beginning of the year. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like it's like they're not hitting on all cylinders, and they're beating these teams pretty easily. You
yeah,
know, I would say that it's a plus more than a minus. You know,
yeah,
I really think because Bruce Pearl teams, I think is going to play up to the competition this team is. You know,
right.
because it seems like when it gets down and if it's close or anything, they just pull away because they just flip a switch.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. We'll see. A lot of people still have Auburn uh, to win the whole thing, which isn't a bad pick. I mean, we'll get to it more, but on our look ahead, next game, Texas Tech, Florida from last night. Did you watch any of that game?
Yeah,
What?
no, I
That's right.
watched.
You texted me. Yeah. What a
Yeah.
game.
Oh yeah,
Walter Clayton
phenomenal.
Jr., dude. He's,
Yeah,
Walter Clayton Jr.
yeah,
What an unbelievable game. I mean, Florida was down the
yeah,
whole game, man. The whole game. It really, truly,
yeah.
like, didn't look good at all. And just,
I think they were down like 11 with three something left.
it was something like that. Yeah. Something like that. And then Clayton hits like those three point. I mean, just the one he like dribbled into the
In the
paint,
lane?
dribbled back out, lost
Yeah,
control, grabbed it,
yeah,
scored. And then there was another one. He like dribbled into the paint,
yeah.
came back out, and just as soon as he got past the 3-point line, his back was turned to the goal. He just turned and threw it up and shot, and it was good. Unbelievable.
Dude, his shot is so like he's not even set. You know what I mean? It's so
Unbelievable.
wild.
Yeah. He reminds a lot of people were saying there's a lot of Steph Curry vibes going on, the way he moves without the ball, the way he just kind of catches and shoots. I don't think that's pretty high praise, but I think
Yeah.
there's definitely some shades of that, at least in the way he shoots.
No, he's got a serious get off. You know what I mean? It's so quick. It's just
Yeah.
literally just turns and fires. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, again, I was impressed with Texas Tech again. You know, that guy
Yeah.
Williams. I mean, they were literally topping and Williams were just getting
Mhm.
the ball. They were clearing out the whole entire
Yeah.
floor and they were just backing down and just beating them down,
Yeah,
And
the disparity is right here. I'm gonna show you this right now. They were almost the same from field goal range. They were almost the same from 3-point.
mm,
Rebounds weren't totally that far off. Um, Texas Tech had way more points off turnovers, 22
yeah,
points off turnovers,
yeah,
and only 5 for Florida. And the turnovers were only Texas Tech had 7 and Florida had 9. So
yeah,
Texas Tech really capitalized. Here it is, dude. Here's the disparity.
yeah.
Florida shot 92.6% from the free throw line, going 25 for 27.
Oh yeah, I saw the stat. Yeah,
And
yeah.
Texas Tech went 7 for 13.
Yep.
So not only did they miss
Yep.
more, but they got less than half, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact, of
Yep.
of that. So God, that's you gotta,
Yeah.
and that was the difference. I think it was a 6-point game, and they missed 6 free throws. So
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
that's where it comes down to.
It's huge, man. Point guards, free throws.
And I get it. The one guy had the one Texas Tech guy. What's his name? It was Darian
Williams.
Williams or whatever. Had a great
Yep.
game, 23 points. He had a wide open look with like
Wide
16
open.
seconds left that would have tied the game. So
Yep.
we could be having a different conversation, but we're not.
Yep.
We're not.
Yep.
So
No, yeah, he was wide open, and he hit the big shot against Arkansas. The guy
yeah.
Williams.
So that was wild. Florida looks like a really good choice. After that last night, Duke, Alabama.
That was. Brutal.
Duke looks great, dude. Like,
Yeah,
I hate to say it. It pains me to say that. I can't
yeah,
stand them. They look really, really
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. I tell you, that's speaking of the back to the Sweet 16 game with Alabama, the worst thing that probably could have happened to him was that game. Because
You know they're not gonna replicate that against
it's
Duke,
not going to
right?
happen again. I mean, there's no chance. Like it wasn't even like, he came out and you could see the confidence deflate because they didn't hit 33s or whatever, or 25 threes.
Well, it's not even that you don't think they can hit 50% of their threes, which you probably can't replicate that, but
Yeah,
maybe you do. Maybe you hit 42% and you still have that's a great I mean anything
yeah,
above 40 is a great
yeah,
three-point night.
yeah,
You know though that Duke there's no way you're getting that many three-pointers off just in
yeah,
general, right? You're
yeah,
not getting 51 off. You're probably not even getting,
yeah,
40 off. It looks like they got they did they did get 32 of them off, so
yeah,
I can't hate too bad, but they went 8 for 32. They shot
yeah,
25%. While meanwhile Duke only got 13 off, but they
yeah,
shot 46% from three-point land.
yeah.
Duke went 53.6% from the field. I mean, you could look at everything.
Rebound. What was the
19 for 22 from the free throw line is compared to 11 for 14.
what was the
So
rebounds?
decent disparity, 8-point disparity there. Duke had 41 rebounds. Alabama only had 30.
Yeah,
Um, the defensive rebound 33 over 19. Just kind of you can kind of keep going, down the Duke did turn the ball over a good amount of times, though. I will say that
yeah,
Duke turned the ball over 13 times. Alabama turned it over 10,
yeah,
but Alabama got 14 points off those turnovers, and then Duke got 15. But that was I did notice that there were some times Duke made a lot of big defensive stops, but there were
yeah,
some times where they looked a little shaky taking care of the ball. Definitely,
yeah. Yep. Yeah,
definitely,
Alabama, man, they just they would get one shot per possession, it
yeah,
seemed like, you
right,
know, and they missed that three, and then
right,
Duke controlled the tempo, you know what I mean? So you saw in the second half where they were walking the ball up and they were
yeah.
running because they knew they could get whatever shot they wanted on offense, and all they needed was one shot.
Yeah. And Duke was extremely balanced. You had Kaman Malawach had 14 points, Cooper Flag had 16 points, Sion
Yeah,
James had 9 points,
yeah,
Con Knipple had 21, and then Tyrese Proctor had 17. So very balanced attack
yeah,
the whole way around. Nobody on Alabama really got going. Your high scorer was Phylon with 16 points, and then you only had Youngblood who had and double. Oh, Nelson had 10 points. So you had a couple guys in double digits, but not
yeah.
not nearly the balanced effort and the balanced attack that Duke did.
No, no, and
So
everything they shot was difficult, man. Everything they
yeah,
went through was difficult. You could just see it.
yeah,
And for Sears to have 6 points and 6 assists after he scored whatever 30 or something the other night, like
yeah,
that's just like he's
yep,
your best player. Your best player has 6 points. That's you
yeah,
don't stand a chance.
yep. So that's set. Duke looks really good. Last of the Elite Eight games was Houston, Tennessee from earlier today. Houston dominated the game. I know, like they didn't score a crap ton of points, but Houston dominated the game. They
Yeah.
kept Tennessee to, um, they kept Tennessee to 50 points. Which, listen,
Yeah.
that's really good, right?
No. Yeah.
That's really good.
And Tennessee looked bad, man. I mean, they just
They
really,
did.
I mean,
No, they
they
did.
like Houston's defense is good,
Yeah,
but that was like 50-50 Houston's
yeah.
defense, and Tennessee was awful.
And that's the thing, like, both teams have good defenses, and
Yeah.
Houston's offense was just a little bit better,
Yeah.
and on tonight, they were 42% from the field, 36 from 3.
Yeah.
God, Tennessee shot 17% from 3 and only
It was bad.
28% from the field, like, very bad. They shot
Yeah.
75% from free throw land. Houston shot 100% from free throw. Now, here's the caveat.
Mm,
They only had 4 attempts, so
yeah.
that's not great. You wanna get more
Yeah.
attempts if you're Houston. Obviously, you made them all, which is good, but, like,
Yeah.
Tennessee got to the line 20 times,
Mhm.
they had 20 foul shots.
Yeah.
They made 15 to 20, which isn't the worst in the world overall, but, you know that's just
You think about that. So you said they made 15 free throws.
yeah.
So that means they scored 35 points. That's insane.
Yep. You're absolutely right,
That's
and
That's wild.
And out of those 35 points, 15 of that was from 3. So they were
Yeah,
terrible from the paint and just from the field in general.
yeah,
Um, Houston had more rebounds. Let's see. Not a whole lot of turnovers and stuff. I mean, Tennessee did turn the ball over 9 times. Houston got all, but they only got 10 points off those
yeah.
turnovers, which isn't, that crazy. Houston only turned the ball over 3 times. I think that's a big deal. They do take care of the ball,
No,
which
yeah,
is which is good. And then what's his name? LJ Cryer had a really good game
yeah, yeah.
with
Against
17 points. Sharp had 16 points, and then that was really it. I mean, nobody else really.
no,
They
yeah.
just played they just played really, really good defense was what it was. So,
That's what they just play
um,
solid basketball, man. They really do.
yeah,
Sampson's a great coach, and
yeah,
that's
great coach.
the only thing that scares me with them though is that's why the Purdue game was close. Is LJ Cryer made like one bucket,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's like with teams like them or Tennessee. Tennessee, Lanier, and they couldn't hit 1 3 in the whole first half. Game was
right,
over.
right. So that brings us to the Final Four. We got all chalk, all number 1 seeds. You got Florida versus Auburn, and then Duke versus Houston. Let's start with Duke versus Houston because does Houston have the height to take care of Flag and Malawatch?
I think they don't need the height and they have the physical toughness to
Okay,
take care of them. But I think the only problem is going to be fouls. And that's what they need to be careful with. If they can be careful and they can play physical defense without fouling, I think they have a chance. But I don't really worry about Malawach as a offensive threat like he was against Alabama.
right.
Because their physical toughness will not let Duke get to the lane and Knipple off coming off the screen to throw the lob pass.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
I feel like they want that that's not going to be it's not going to be like that.
I think the height. I get what you're saying. I think the height, not just for like Flag and Malawatch, but Tugler and Roberts are only 6'8".
Yeah,
Now they're tough, like you said. Roberts, I love Juwan Roberts. So he's
yeah,
tough as
yeah,
hell. But you got Malawatch and Flag, who Flag is 6'11". Malawatch is like 7 foot, 7'1".
yeah,
Here's where the discrepancy is. Cryer and Sharp and Uzan. Uzan's 6'4". Cryer and Sharp are only like 6'1" to 6'3".
yeah,
Duke's guards are all 6'6",
yeah,
right? Proctor,
yeah,
Sion James, they're all 6'6". I think that is really where the issue is going to be, is their guard play. Now, can they make up for it in quickness and toughness? I think they can. I really do think they can. And if Cryer and Uzan have a good night, I think that Houston does legitimately have like a good chance at beating Duke. I really, really, truly think that. I know a lot of people are going to say no because Duke is just on an absolute heater, and maybe it's my disdain for Duke that tells that I'm going for that. But I do think that Houston. But I think the length is going to be a big deal. I think the length is going to be a big deal. I trust Kelvin Sampson to come up with a great scheme, but I think the length is going to be a big deal.
yeah, and that's it. I mean, as a UConn fan, that's like that was our biggest advantage. That it plays such a big factor in college basketball now. There's that when we had Tristan Newton 6'5", we had Steph Castle is like 6'5", 6'6".
Right.
Like you're automatically a great defender because
Right.
of your length. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
also flying around the court and stuff like that. But I don't know. I feel like I feel like I'm the same way. My disdain towards Duke could be taken over. But I feel like they have a chance because they just have to they have to muck up the game. They
Yep.
If it's a track meet, they're gonna lose by 30.
Yep.
That I can guarantee is that they have to muck up the game. You're gonna have to have guys that are expendable with fouls, you know what I mean, and just try to make them uncomfortable. And I feel like you can give them tough twos all day. You can't let them rip you from the 3-point line.
Yeah. No, that's a good analysis there. Who's your pick to win that game?
I'm picking Duke.
Picking Duke. I
Yeah,
get it. I
yeah,
get it.
yeah,
I get it. All right, so then we got Florida versus Auburn, and honestly, dude, I think this is a really good matchup. I think it everything fits. They're all their bigs are about the same height, 6'10",
yeah,
6'11". I
yeah,
think their guard play is average in matchup and height. I think I think like your dark horse, not dark horse, you're like unicorn there is Walter Clayton Jr. I think he's
Yeah.
just like so much better than any of the other guards
Mhm.
on the Auburn's team. I mean, I shouldn't say that because Pettiford's really, really good.
Yeah.
Pettiford's just kind of small.
Yeah.
But Walter Clayton Jr. is just he's just wrecking stuff nowadays. Florida is built for this though. Like this is what they're built for, and um, it should be a great game. I think it really should
Yeah.
be a great game.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping to, obviously, but I really think both these games can be awesome,
Yeah,
but like Florida with Walter Clayton, just the big thing for them is that they have to come out, what I mean, the UConn
right.
game, they have to come out and play, man. They can't be
Yeah.
down 11.
I think Auburn is a little more experienced overall. You know what I mean? They've had guys like with Bruce Pearl. Florida wasn't great last year. I just think Auburn is kind of a little more. There's a little more veteran leadership on that team,
Yeah,
um, and that matters this time of year for
yeah,
sure. That matters. And listen, we've seen, UConn gave Florida a great game, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, they almost lost last night. I mean, there's some, you know, say what you want about Auburn, but they've been in control the last few games for the
yeah,
most part. Florida has pulled it out with great, fantastic play. Kind of like the same thing we said about Alabama. They shot that crazy 3-point percentage. There's no way they're doing it again.
yeah.
Can Florida keep kind of pulling magic out of their hat?
Yeah, and are they now propensity to do that so they come out slow again because they're like, yeah, we can just come back.
Right,
That'd be my biggest worry
right.
as a coach is that you have to fire them up and you have to win the first 10-point race. You know what I mean? You got to get
Yeah,
in the game and be ready to roll because the final four against Auburn, man, you're just not going to be able to do
yeah,
that.
yep, yeah. Who's your pick to win that game?
I'm gonna ride my horse, Florida. I'm gonna ride them to the end.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going complete opposite from you then. I got Auburn beating Florida, Houston beating Duke,
Can't
and
do it.
my
You can't
pick from
pick
the
Duke.
very beginning was Houston to win the whole thing.
Yeah,
It didn't the rest of my brackets didn't pan out, but I had Houston in two of my brackets winning the entire thing. Um I had Houston winning too, so I'm going to stick with them. I like them. I can't stand Duke, obviously. I don't dislike or like Florida or Auburn anymore. I've just always kind of liked Houston. I like the toughness. I like Kelvin Sampson. I'm going to
yeah.
stick with Houston to win the whole thing. Who do you got winning the whole thing?
Yeah, I got Florida still. Yeah, I still think
Good,
Florida can do it. Yeah. Yep.
good.
Ride it, ride the horse, man. I got one bracket left that I could possibly win in a group. And
Nice.
yeah, no, I mean they have all the pieces. I really just think is
I
that
agree.
it is they just have to play
The
49.
mentality. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's going to be fun. What are you doing for the Final Four next weekend? You got any plans?
No, no plans. No,
Yeah.
I'll be here just watching,
All
Saturday and
right.
then Monday night special where work stinks on Tuesday because you stay up late.
I know. I kind of like when it's all on Monday night. I just
Well,
it's nice to have.
you don't have to worry about anything planned. Like it's the best because it's not like like it's a weekend. You got kids, this, that.
Right. Right.
We're always busy on the weekend, so
Yeah,
Monday I
everyone's
think is
yep.
awesome.
Kids are in bed early because of school.
Love it.
Yeah, we're having a buddy of ours out over here is having a little Final Four watch party with some food, so
Oh,
we're gonna
nice.
get to that, and we got a lot of them are Florida fans, that are coming
Oh,
because they're
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah. What
um it'll be fun.
what's your feeling on the chalk though? Do you like it? Does it I mean, how do
I don't
you?
mind it. I listen, I want to just see good games, really and truly. I don't care if it's a Cinderella story and a good game, pushing a one seed to the brink and either beating them or not. But I don't really care if it's chalk or not. I just want to see good games. I
Yeah,
really do. I think I think this and I think there have been better NCAA tournaments than this
yeah,
simply from a game standpoint. We've had some good games and close games and down to the wire. The Maryland game from last weekend with Derek
yeah,
Queen hitting the shot. You had Arkansas and Texas Tech in overtime this week. You had, there were some good games. The first game of uh, the St. Francis, the first four, the St. Francis
yeah, yeah,
game, playing
yeah,
whoever the hell they played,
yeah,
um, going to overtime was Alabama State, whatever it was great. But I think a lot of like again today, take today for example. Neither game was that close.
Yeah.
You know, last night, Duke, Alabama wasn't close.
Yeah.
Florida, Texas Tech was a good game. I'll give it that. But it just, we've had a lot of those games, a lot of 8-point victories, 10-point, 12-point, 13-point,
Yeah.
7-point, where it's just not really in question. I don't think that has anything to do with the chalk or not the chalk. I just think that's the way it was this year. So yeah, give me the chalk. I don't care. I kind of like when teams that have dominated all year make it all the way to the end. I kind of like
Well,
that, you
you
know.
get the powerhouses, man. You really, you know what I mean? You'll get to see like this is the best of the best.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
think so. I
yeah,
think if I think any of those matchups lead to really good Final Four games and then national championship games. I
yeah,
really do. If I'm going for Houston, I think Duke Florida is probably the best matchup,
yeah,
but I could say Duke Auburn is too. I really,
yeah,
I really do. I can't stand Duke, as noted. I just think like they could. I wouldn't be shocked if they beat Houston by 12 and they beat Florida or Auburn in the finals comfortably either. I really like I wouldn't be shocked. I hope not. I don't think so. I think it'll be good games. I wouldn't be shocked if Duke just fucking waltzes to the finish line.
yeah. They could. I think they could
They're
easily.
really good, dude.
Yeah, they're really
Like
good, man.
they're so good,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
I really think they can. But you just got to disrupt them, man. No one's just, you know,
Yeah.
what I mean, them playing Alabama gives us that taste of like they're so freaking good. Alabama's defense stinks. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yes,
That
and
it's
they
awful.
rattled Duke a few times last night, you
That's
know?
what I mean. You know, and they're
Yeah.
Arizona's defense stinks. They only won by 7. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's a team that play. You know, I'm trying to think who else did they play in the tournament? Did anyone have a good defense or a physical defense?
Not really. I mean, they waltzed through most of the tournament.
Yeah, Baylor doesn't play good. Yeah, they
No,
played
no,
Baylor.
they waltzed through most of the tournament. I think one thing that I was listening to today on a podcast was that one of the best things that could have happened to Duke was having Cooper Flag sit out for those few games in the
Yeah,
ACC tournament because it allowed the rest of the team to be like, "Yo, we're
100%.
really good too,
Yeah,
and we can do this with or without him."
yeah,
Obviously, you're going to want him, but like I think like Knipple kind of rose. I like Con Knipple. I do. I
yeah.
think
That's your boy.
he's what a great name, first of all. But
Yeah,
I really like the way he plays. But I think that was one of the best things, like for them to see and build that confidence without Cooper Flag. That's might be dangerous for the rest of the league. So
yeah,
we
absolutely. Because
shall see.
when you have a star like that, man, you a lot of the for most of the season, especially in the ACC, the rest of the players were just sitting back watching.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was good for them to
Yeah,
see it all there. So
yeah,
well, Danny, we will do this. We'll do this again. We'll figure out if we're going to do this, late Saturday
yeah.
or Sunday next week to recap the Final Four.
Monday at
Um,
1 a.m.
Yeah, and then the national championship game is on Monday. We do have the main podcast on Monday, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But we promise the listeners we will either we'll either have two more episodes of this,
Mm.
one to recap the Final Four, and then to recap the national championship, or we'll have at least one more just recapping both the Final Four and the national championship. But we do promise to get back on here one more time before it's all said and done. So. That's all I got, man. I'm
Yeah,
spent, dude. I'm tired.
yeah. Tap out.
I feel like a big J journalist, man. Just following
Yeah,
all these games
yeah,
and then getting on late at night, even though it's not super late, and just
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
spent, dude.
All we need to be is in hotel rooms with continental breakfast in the
Yeah,
morning. It'd be
yeah, yeah,
totally
yeah.
fitting, man.
The
Yeah.
different the difference too there is they get paid pretty handsomely for that. You
Yeah.
and I are just doing
Yeah.
this for the sheer hell of it. But
We're working
um,
for crackers.
always a pleasure, though, man. Danny, thank you for joining me.
Yes, sir.
Trudge Report
Pleasure.
fans, please don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel at Trudge Report Pod, share it with your friends and family. Check out the main podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can check us out on all other social media handles at Trudge Report Pod. We thank you for listening. We have entertained you and informed you, and we will see you again very, very soon. Until then, cheers.